Hello and welcome to another Deck Tech. I'm Randy Buehler. I'm joined by John Stern. Welcome, John.
Hi, thank you.
Now, we're here in Providence. You're gold level pro. You've been gold for a couple of years. You've got silver locked up, but now a little bit of work to do with these last couple Grand Prix into the last Pro Tour of the season.
Yeah, I'm sitting on 18 points, so I need various point totals matter for thresholds that I can hit at the PT. So I'm trying to get to 20 or 25 so I can get a result and hopefully get gold back again.
All right, so as we hit the stretch drive of this Pro Tour season, your weapon of choice in Standard is?
I'm playing Green Red Devotion today.
And why Green Red Devotion?
Well, there's a few reasons. I think, first of all, it's one of the best decks in the format. I think it's really well positioned against the mid-range decks. I expect a lot of Death Mist Raptors today.
And Den Protectors and...
Yep. And you just go over the top with Dragon Lord Atarka and really powerful cards.
Okay. So let's look at all the cards in the deck. It starts with the mana base, and you've got kind of the best acceleration in the format. Elvish Mystic, Rattle Claw Mystic, Sylvan Caryatid?
Yep. Yeah, Elvish Mystic is a really powerful card. I've played in a lot of decks over the years. Rattle Claw Mystic over Voyaging Satyr because, well, it helps me get red mana, but also the unmorphing ability can bring back my Death Mist Raptors, so it has lots of utility like that.
But you're not interested in untapping Nykthos with a Wayfinder?
I find that once you have Nykthos going, your deck is producing so much mana that whether you're casting Genesis Hydra for 10 or for 15, it doesn't really matter. So.
Okay. So Mystics, Rattle Claws, Caryatids, Coursers of course, still just all the mid-range incremental value you could want?
A great value creature. It blocks well against the aggro decks. You generate card advantage, you gain some life. It's just a great card.
And 3 copies of Death Mist Raptor, 0 copies of Den Protector.
Yeah, I was considering playing Den Protectors in this deck, but I just found that in order to maintain that advantage over the mid-range decks, you have to be doing something different and more powerful. You're not trying to attrition them out with Death Mist Raptor. It's just a good creature. You'll get some value back later, and it adds to your devotion count.
Right, so the 2 green pips on the Death Mist Raptor certainly makes sense. And I mean, speaking of 2 green pips, Ciroc the Hunt Caller.
Ciroc has sort of fallen out of favor. Most people aren't playing it, but I was looking at some of the older lists. Stratsky played that when he top 8'd, and it has a lot of good interactions in the format. Sometimes they're playing. They play an Elspeth or they play a Wrath, and you're just sitting there and you can play a big Hydra, but then they untap and deal with it. If you play a Hydra and find a Serach, you're doing 10-15 points of damage in one turn. So looking forward to trying that guy out.
So this sounds right in line with your go over the top.
Yeah, well, also I find like a lot of times you're playing against Thoughtseize decks and you can't really sandbag the Atarka. So you have to sort of play it proactively, then they go Elspeth minus, and you really got nowhere. Or they tap, you can't kill an Ojutai, so they deal with it when they untap. But if you have a Serach in play, they have to use their removal proactively on the Serach, and then they don't have the answer for Atarka. And if they don't, well...
Have you gotten to Serach Atarka somebody yet?
It's a new innovation. I haven't played a lot with it, so I've done it a couple times in practice, but not in a tournament yet. So
seems like a good one. Dragon Lord Atarka, 8/8, flying, trample, seems like everything you could possibly want from a dragon.
Yeah, it's a great card.
And it's a lot of the reason for the red splash, right? Your red splash, we say green-red devotion. It's devotion to green, obviously. It's mostly green mana pips. It's 3 Dragon Lord Atarka and then 1 Xenakis, and that's the entire red splash?
For the main deck, yeah, and I even considered cutting the Xenakis because I don't love it in the mid-range matchups. Okay. I find you're sending your Satyrs into Death Mist Raptors too often. Xenakis is almost a ram spell. I would have cut it, except that it's so powerful in the mirror that I just want that access to that card. But really, you're playing red for Dragon Lord Atarka.
Got it. And then, meanwhile, lots of good fatties that you can use all this ramp to get into. Pelucranos on 4, Whisperwood Elemental on 5, and then Genesis Hydra on X. Walk me through the strengths of those and weaknesses of those guys.
Pelucranos is with the amount of mana you're generating, you're often using Pelucranos as a sweeper. You can even you monster sit the turn you play, and you can kill their whole board pretty much. Whisperwood is also a great value creature that doubles as protection against Wrath effects. So whenever you're often going to cast Genesis Hydra for 7 mana, hoping to find a Whisperwood and turning off their main answer to whatever it is you're doing. And Genesis Hydra is basically almost a demonic tutor in this deck for casting whatever threat you need to find. You'll often be casting it for enough to find a Atarka. You'll be finding Whisperwood Elemental a lot. Sometimes you just need a Serach.
Got it. And then the one of Ugin, I guess the last card we haven't talked about.
Yeah, I mean Ugin, it's a really powerful card. A lot of people have in their sideboard. For me, it was more about looking at the matchups, and of the 11 matchups I was looking at, I was boarding in Ugin in 10 of them. Basically everything except mono red aggro decks. So
Okay.
So basically, I felt it was a more useful, and also people don't expect it in game one. So it's a great answer to Deathmist Raptors. Sometimes you can lose games to Raptors and Rhinos. So yeah, I'm looking forward to trying it out. I haven't played it a lot yet, main deck, but I think it's a good surprise.
How do you feel about the mana base? I see a couple of one-ofs.
Yeah, there's the two different configurations that people are playing are basically the 10th Forest or the one Windswept Heath. I found that there are so many bad late game draws in this deck. You don't want to be drawing Rattle Claw Mystics, Caryatids, Mystics, that having the extra shuffle effect is worth the possibility of taking a point of damage at some point when you have a Courser in play.
Yeah, the Courser,
Yeah.
you know your top card so often that just having
Yeah.
an extra fetch land in there is worth it, even though all it can get is a forest.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of Urborgs floating around, so often you don't even have to sack it until you're ready with a Courser. So yeah, I mean, it's not a huge difference, but I'm playing one Windswept Heath, which maybe a lot of people aren't.
Sure, and then one Rugged Highlands plus the 4
Yeah,
temples.
I mean, I want to play some double red casting cost spells in the sideboard. You just need the mana fixing.
Got it. For Nykthos, obviously, that's really the engine that makes this deck run.
Yeah, I mean, some people play 3, but like every time you draw Nykthos, you're so happy, and you're usually happy when you draw the second one. So, especially game ones where they're not killing everything you play. Sometimes it's just not a colorless land and post sideboard, but those are the games you're usually losing. So yeah, it's just a really powerful card, and this deck takes advantage of it.
And that's really where you beat those other mid-range green decks, right? You're doing kind of some of the same value green creatures, but you get to make such ridiculous amounts of mana that huge Hydras, quick Atarkas just come down and take over the game.
Yeah, you can monstrous Polukranos for 15 times, for 15 toughness and just kill their whole board sometimes. Like when you have like a Nykthos and you have a Nykthos coming to play off the Courser, so much mana.
Now, does that strategy make you softer to some of the Control Shabzan decks that might have a sweeper effect, like a Crux of Fate or a End Hostilities?
Well, I mean, we are a little bit resistant to those effects with Dragonlord Tarka, so that makes Crux a little awkward for them. And Whisperwood is a great answer to End Hostilities. But yeah, it's definitely a good card against you. You can lose games to it, but you have answers for it. And also, I'm hoping that with stuff like Serach in play and Deathmist Raptor coming back, that I can, if they tap out for a Wrath effect, I can deploy another huge threat right away.
That makes sense. Now let's talk about the sideboard. You mentioned double red for Ashcloud Phoenix.
Yeah, Ashcloud Phoenix, it's just a very good creature. It's really resilient to a lot of the spot removal in the format, with Abzan Charm being the exception. It blocks Thunderbreak Region and Stormbreath Dragon. I'm looking for, like, if you play Genesis Hydra, you can sometimes hit the Ashcloud Phoenix, and that's a very good threat against Esper. So yeah, it comes in a lot of matchups, and it's one more morph that can bring your Raptors back in the matchups where that's important.
Sure. Walk me through the rest of the sideboard.
Okay, I mean, Arbor, Colossus, and Plummet, are basically targeting the dragon decks, like the red-green dragons or Mardu dragons. You just need, you don't have a lot of defense for flyers. You have a Tarka, but if they have a removal spell or Tarka takes too long to come out, you can easily lose to Stormbreath Dragons. So, I'm boarding out some bad cards in the matchup, like Deathmist Raptor, and bringing in answers for the flyers. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Nissa there's a lot of matchups where I did not think Nissa would be great. Like, they have Siege Rhinos, and you're attacking with 4 foes. It doesn't seem, or they have End Hostilities and they're going to kill 3 of your lands. But the fact that it requires another removal spell to deal with a Planeswalker has made it's just so powerful that I bring it in even in those matchups where maybe it's not at its best. And it's probably the best card against Control that you could play. So yeah, I've been really happy with Nissa. It's overperformed for me. What else do I have there?
Nylea's Disciple's got to be fun against the red decks.
Yeah, Nylea's Disciple, I mean, yep, I have a lot of devotion, and they're not killing everything I play, so, I mean, they have Atarka's command, basically. It's the only way to get around that, I guess. But yeah, Nylea's Disciple is just a very solid creature. Also, you can, for 6 mana, you can Genesis Hydra, and hopefully you hit one, so you get some nice synergy there. Hornet Nest comes in most of the same matchups, also against Abzan aggro, just blocks all the ground creatures, and it forces them to play on a whole new axis that they're not usually prepared for. Once in a while they have a heel cutter, but it's just a very solid card. And I cut the 4th Disciple for a Twin Bolt. That was more a concession for some of the less popular matchups like Ban Heroic, where the life gain maybe is not enough to swing it, but killing their Hero of Eros on turn 2 is great. And that's another reason I'm playing Twin Bolt over something like Arc Lightning, just to fit into my mana curve at a little more convenient slot.
That makes sense.
The Xenakis, I mean, like I said, it's a concession to the mirror, and it's also very good against control, even though it doesn't come in a lot of matchups where it's good, it's really good, so.
Makes sense to me.
Yep.
So there you guys have it. Green-red devotion, clearly one of the best strategies that has emerged in this standard. It seems like it's been winning consistently. There's a lot of different ways you can take it, and it's interesting to hear your take on the specific details of the way you've got this one configured.
Yep.
All right, thanks for sharing with us.
No problem.
See you guys next time. Stay tuned for more coverage of Grand Prix Providence.